Now on to the silent crisis in our nation's maternity wards. African-American mothers dying at a higher rate than any other racial or ethnic group from childbirth-related complications. Families affected by this tragedy share their stories on the day their lives changed forever. Janae Norman has this report.
What was supposed to be the start of a new life turned out to be the end of another. 26-year-old Amber Rose Isaac was preparing to give birth at the height of the coronavirus pandemic in New York City in April when everything changed for her partner Bruce.
And I just remember staring and, looking at her face and seeing how scared she was, panicking a bit. So I'm telling her, yeah, we're going home. This is what we prepared for. This is what we were ready for. It's time. And she looked at me and said, yes, all three of us are going home. And that was the last time I seen Amber.
Amber posted on Twitter about, quote, dealing with incompetent doctors. She died 4 days later. Bruce says Amber tried advocating for herself, but doctors just wouldn't listen.
She voiced her concerns to her OB. She was letting her know, she's not feeling right. She's feeling a lot of discomfort. She's having shortness of breath. And her OB didn't really understand. She was like, oh, well, there are other women who are working while they're pregnant. So that right there just told me she didn't really care about Amber.
In a statement, the hospital spokesperson saying 94% of our deliveries are minority mothers, and Montefiore's maternal mortality rate of 0.01% is lower than both New York City and national averages, adding any maternal death is a tragedy. Amber's story is not uncommon. July 2nd, 26-year-old Sha'Asia Washington died during an emergency C-section. And July 27th, Yolanda Kadima, a doula and mom of 7, died giving birth to twins, also during an emergency C-section. Experts like Professor Deirdre Cooper Owens, who's written about how race and gender impacted American gynecology, say the struggles these women face throughout their pregnancies and childbirth all come down to racism.
You see that class and status tend to matter. The higher up you go, right, the kind of better protected you are. That doesn't exist for Black women because we're all experiencing racism in the same way. So when I walk into the office, nobody knows if I'm married or have a PhD or what my income is. The assumption is I might be lying, maybe I'm promiscuous, maybe I don't eat well. I should still be given fair treatment and equitable treatment by my doctor.
My first pregnancy, my birthing experience was pretty traumatic.
And then he actually punctured my spinal cord. I was temporarily paralyzed.
We were so excited about bringing Jace into this world, and then the last 2 or 3 days of his birthing process was too tragic.
I was bullied and I was abused emotionally and physically, in the sense that consent was not asked for as often as it should have been.
It took me a while to find a provider that I trusted and that respected me.
We lost him due to what is known as HELP syndrome. We found out later on that his death could have been prevented, as well as the traumatic birthing experience that she experienced.
So many Black families with similar stories, and these experiences add to a mistrust between the Black community and the medical community, a relationship with a long, dark history dating back centuries.
Enslaved Black women were experimented on, particularly during the 19th century. So a little bit in the 18th century, but largely in the 19th century, as obstetrics and gynecology became more formal and accepted branches of medicine. Marion Sims, known as the father of American gynecology, pioneers the surgery to correct this obstetrical fistula condition. People didn't know that he experimented on enslaved women. They didn't know that 2.5 years into his experimental trial, when his white medical assistants quit, he trained these enslaved women to serve as nurses. They were still his patients. They were still his slaves that he either owned or leased, and they still served as surgical assistants. So that part of the story was left out.
The success of James Marion Sims earned him the nickname of the father of modern gynecology. But his legacy is marred by the fact he earned it on the backs of Black slaves through non-consensual human experimentation without anesthesia. Now, doctors like Jennifer Lincoln, also an OBGYN, are fighting against present-day health disparities.
To this day, Black people are less likely to get the same treatment in terms of pain medication. They're more likely to wait longer in the emergency room. They're less likely to be taken seriously. It's a holdover from the days of slavery. And in my field, this plays a huge role in the Black maternal and morbidity crisis. The call to action: doctors, nurses, anybody in the medical field, check your implicit bias.
Staggering statistics show Black women in America die during childbirth nearly 3 times more than white women, making the United States one of the most dangerous developed countries in the world for Black women to give birth. And doctors say the issue for mothers extend through pregnancy and postpartum, and also impact Black babies, who are more than twice as likely to die than white babies.
So higher rates of complications related to childbirth and pregnancy as well. It's huge, and it's something that in a population, childbearing women in general are young, healthy women, and then these are not women who should be suffering these extreme complications or be dying, especially in a developed country.
I am Khalil Wan, Divine Certified's Daddy Doula. This is my wife, Brooke Wan, Divine Certified's Mommy Warrior, and our son, Prince Khalil Wan. Together, we intentionally researched, planned, and successfully completed, as well as recorded, our natural, unassisted, at-home birth. Meaning, I personally delivered our son with the support of a non-medically certified family friend after 3 days of labor with no governance from a doula, midwife, nurse, or doctor, as we were confident in our proven education that has been traditionally demonstrated since the beginning of humanity.
This birth course will help with preparing mind, body, and spirit to prepare holistically for the birthing journey through traditional health solutions that have been documented over time throughout humanity and have been tested and tried by us as well. And so much more. Connect with your inner wisdom and intuition as you cultivate a sense of peace and readiness for birth, while starting to prepare for postpartum recovery success now. One of the traditional health solutions that we have seen exist throughout humanity is actually being demonstrated in front of you right now, which is the strength of the family unit. So by having the father of my child be involved from pregnancy to birth through postpartum recovery, that was the factor that made everything else possible and was more than enough to empower me to a level of evolution within myself to accomplish something I never knew that I could.